Falcon and the Winter Soldier debuted on Disney Plus this past weekend as Venom gets delayed, In the Heights gets moved up, as well as a new trailer, and Joe and I have another announcement for you all. I'm Darius Delsoin.
And I'm Joe Acierno. This is Cinema Unchained.
Alright, what is up? Welcome back yet again to another episode on the Cinema Unchained YouTube channel and podcast. Of course, before we get into our big announcement and before we start talking about what we'll be talking about in this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as well as the Podcast Index, because that's now we are on pretty much almost everywhere. So that is awesome. And of course, and what we will be discussing, we'll be discussing Falcon and Winter Soldier for our first impressions of Falcon and Winter Soldier. The Venom gets delayed, and of course, our first announcement that we'll be starting off the new this episode in. So, Joe, would you like to start off the announcement that we have?
Sure, if you want to give me this solemn task, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. So it's honestly not that big of a deal. So just to let you guys know, we're going on a brief hiatus for a couple of weeks because we're going to be filming the short film that we announced a couple of weeks ago on this podcast, Avenge. And we're going to be filming on Saturdays, and also, of course, the Easter holidays are coming up. So it just makes more sense for us to just put this on hold for a couple of weeks while we film and also celebrate the holidays. I know I'm not going to be available for both Easter and Palm Sunday. Darius, I don't know if exactly what you're going to be doing for the holidays or whatnot, but I figure it just makes more sense. That way we can concentrate a bit more on the film and celebrate the holidays when need be. And Darius, you want to just get into a little bit what the movie's about again? Venge?
Sure. So, as we announced previously in our either previous podcast or podcast before, we announced that we'll be doing our short film together, our next short film together called Venge. This is basically, we are following a young man who kind of gets in over his head while he's searching for his girlfriend. And as he does so, he uncovers new information about his girlfriend, as well as just how much deep shit he's really in, so especially his girlfriend too. So there's gonna be a lot of drama, definitely drama heavy, definitely character heavy as well. So I'm pretty excited to start filming that and like I said, it's gonna be very character driven, if anything, per se, because that's how I was writing this. So again, I'm excited to start filming, and I bet Joe is too. So if not,
yeah,
then,
it's funny.
oh well.
Yeah, once again, you're betting I am. You're assuming that I'm excited to start doing this. So, but again, just a little bit more background info. The film is going to be directed and written by Darius. This is his script. Stars Jonathan Tyler Peck, Tess Tregellis, and Brian Collins. Again, three performers that we all know that the two of us know through various experiences. And it's going to be produced by Darius, myself, and our colleague Shay Loran. And just to give you an idea of when we'll be coming back, our next episode after this one, after the hiatus, will premiere on April 18th with our review of Mortal Kombat. So we all have that to look forward to. I'm going to assume that you guys are looking forward to that. So now, before we talk about the new developments for In the Heights, Falcon and the Winter Soldier premiered this past weekend on Disney Plus. And Darius, again, I think you're just a bit more enthusiastic about this than I am. So why don't you tell us about Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Sure, so Falcon and Winter Soldier takes place 6 months after Endgame, and we follow Falcon, Bucky, really we follow Bucky and Sam as to what they're doing after the event of Endgame and what sort of drama they're in, and as well as the new threat that's arising, as well as Sam almost coming into his own as his own superhero and not being shadowed, really being in a shadow of Captain America. As we see in the episode, we still see Captain America's shield. And by the way, we will be getting into spoilers, so this is a spoiler episode, pretty much. So if you don't want to know anything, click back, come back, then watch. So
slapping a big go about, I want to say 5 or 10 minutes here from now. Just skip ahead to about then. And
exactly.
Yeah.
So
overall, this first episode I thought was pretty good. It was okay overall. Yeah. I'm waiting for that it factor to make the show pop. And I know a lot of the reactions for this episode were a lot more enthusiastic than mine, is for sure, which is fine. But again, I still want to see what happens next, not because of anything the show has really done so far, but
Hmm.
because of like how these characters have already been developed, and I want to see the directions that they take both Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes in.
No, yeah, for sure. To be honest, I'm actually in a similar boat as you. I thought it was pretty good. Okay. There are definitely moments where it did get my adrenaline pumping, mainly because I already watched another movie beforehand and I was already kind of pumped with that. So, but yeah. So overall, I mean, I thought it was pretty good, decent episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. For some reason, it's just missing something for me. I think it's missing a
Yeah.
certain, I don't know what it is. I think maybe a bit more heart into it. And it's like, I'm not saying it doesn't have heart. Obviously, it does. You know, these creators and writers pour their passions and their bloods onto this show. But overall, just some of the drama for me, especially, like, one of the things I really did enjoy. I honestly like this more than the other aspect. Is actually like Bucky's intro and his drama and his internal conflict
Hmm.
more than Sam, to be honest. And that's going to be interesting going forward because you have this show that is propping up these characters, and comic canon wise, they both become Captain America at some point in their careers. So it's going to be interesting where this show really ends off. Either who becomes Captain America, is there is another Captain America, or is Captain America just dead and leave it at Steve Rogers? So for me, this episode I thought it was a pretty solid, decent, okay episode. It's just it lacked a bit more, I guess, emphasis in really some of the struggles, in my opinion. Sam, it's like I understood where he was coming from. You got a sense of his family, the family struggle, which I
Hmm.
really did enjoy. But for some reason, I just wasn't attached to that as much as I was attached to Bucky. I guess mainly because Bucky has been manipulated almost throughout his entire life. He's done things
His
that is
extended life,
what
basically.
yeah, exactly. And even the scene where he's with the father of a young man he killed, I thought how that played out really honestly was pretty beautifully because not a single word was said in a certain scene. You can just tell in his eyes and his emotions, and you can see that connection. And I was like, oh, that's the father, and I was like, that hit home
Hmm.
for me. And
Yeah.
again, I'm liking Bucky's introduction and his arc much more than Sam. I thought I would like Sam more, but Bucky, I'm really enjoying.
Yeah, and again, like there are a few things that that the show has established so far. Again, you have Bucky's complicated or even traumatic past, depending on how you look at it, and that's a direction that I think has a lot of potential for some real, just like thought provoking, storylines. And I think too, when it comes to that, as opposed to Sam Wilson's character, and again, even though not as much has been really developed with Sam Wilson's character at this point, I do there is still an affable charm there about him. And I look at him and I look at Bucky and I'm like, okay, watching these two bounce off of each other when they actually get to bounce off of each other, I think is going to create a great dynamic. But overall, the turns so far from Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are pretty strong. You can't really expect much less from anything having to do with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Same with the action. The action is pretty great so far. But, again, like I said, I'm just waiting for that bite that really makes the show
Yeah.
stand out. The episode ended off on an interesting point, but still looking back at it, I'm like, I wasn't like 100% enthralled throughout the entire 50-minute episode. But at the
Yeah.
same time, again, I still see potential in this too. Once again, because of like what's already been done with these characters before the show started.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to go in an interesting direction, almost very similar to WandaVision, where in the beginning of WandaVision, not a lot of people were already on board compared to
Hmm.
me, right? And even this one, not a lot of people are jumping on board yet. But I think given the next 2 to 3 episodes, this is a 6 episode series.
Hmm.
So within the next 2 to 3, I think it's going to start to kick up for sure.
It
And
better.
considering, yeah, I mean each episode's 50 minutes, so let's hope.
Yeah, and it's
um,
funny you mentioned WandaVision too, because like WandaVision immediately had that, in my opinion, it immediately had that thing about it that made it stand out, like this sort of like off
okay,
kilter aspect, like as far as like it being like a 1950s sitcom, just felt very mysterious from the beginning, especially when it had that moment where it stopped being a sitcom and just got very trippy. But like when it comes to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I get it, like it's a different kind of, it's still like a different approach.
Hmm.
But I'm waiting for that thing that makes it stand out from other MCU content. And again, I do
Yeah.
think he could get there because of how the characters have already been developed so far, how they're going to bounce off of each other in the episodes to come. I do see potential, but we're not there yet. But I'm still looking forward to being able to just follow the show over the next few weeks.
Hmm. If there's anything I really like about this show, and probably that is really similar to one of my favorite MCU movies, and that's Winter Soldier. It really encapsulates, I guess, some of the fighting choreography, which I've been hoping for a while in some of the Marvel films after Winter Soldier, but I haven't really gotten that. So with this, for the fighting choreography and the action to really stand out for me and remind me of that movie, I was really excited. And even seeing recurring characters from that movie come back in here, like the Leaping Barrack, the same actor that was in Winter Soldier, he's back in this. It was awesome, great to see him, especially after what, 10 years? Considering the time skip. So it's like, hey, he's still looking good in his age. All right.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to see exactly what happens moving forward with the show. But I'm curious as to what you guys are thinking. What did you think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Leave your thoughts in that comment section there below. Now, before we get into In the Heights, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts, the Podcast Index, or YouTube. And those social media pages, those profiles in that description, they're there for a reason. They're there for you to follow, so you should do that. Now, before we get into Venom 2 being delayed yet again, In the Heights got a couple of interesting new developments. Not only did they get, I think, 2 new trailers over the last week, but it also was moved up a week in its release from June 18th of this year to June 11th of this year. So, Darius, what are you thinking as far as In the Heights so far?
In the Heights, I'm excited for it, to be honest. Like, this is a movie that really intrigues me because they're doubling down on it, some of the Latina and Hispanic culture, as well as even some black culture as well within the music. And I think, In the Heights, it's a musical, really,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the music's going to elevate quite a bit of the drama that they're establishing in this film, and overall the just from the performances and just from some of the stuff that's being said in the actual trailer, I'm personally really excited for this. I think it has a lot of potential. I think Lin-Manuel is a talented artist, and it's great to see him back again directing something. I know he did Hamilton, so it's great to see him doing this movie. John M. Chu, I absolutely love Crazy Rich Asians, so I think he's going to bring a certain heart to this film that Crazy Rich Asians had, which made me love Crazy Rich Asians so much. And I'm expecting nothing but good things. Hopefully, that's where my expectations are.
Same here. And again, for those who aren't as familiar, I actually never saw the original musical, but for those who aren't familiar with the musical and with the overall plotline of the film, it takes place in the predominantly Dominican neighborhood of Washington Heights, New York, and it follows a charismatic bodega owner who's conflicted over whether or not to sell his establishment and retire to the DR. And I'm very, very excited about this. I think based on what we've seen so far, there's a sort of energy and pulse and rhythm to this that I think, like you said, is going to elevate all like the emotional aspects of the story. And again, I'm definitely expecting a lot of emotion to be present in this film, and I'm just really looking forward to it. And I want to see exactly what they do as far as the, I guess, production of these musical sequences, because like you see in
Hmm.
the trailer too about how like they're like dancing like on like building walls and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I never saw the original musical, but I doubt that was actually they were actually able to do that on
Yeah,
stage. So I'm interested to see like how exactly they do a lot of these things, because I think this is one of those films where obviously since it's a musical, like the musical, the choreography and the dance sequences are gonna either elevate it into something that'll actually stand out, or just like kick it to the curb with the rest of the things
and
that we don't
drag.
remember in years to come.
For sure. And I think one of the great things I find that I like in musicals is always been the dancing. I like dancing. I dance in my room when I'm alone. That's
Same
just who
here.
I am.
I'm not any good. I'm not any good, but like I definitely do it. I definitely dance mostly when no one's looking. But no, I'm not any
Yeah,
good at it. No,
exactly.
I've
And
got
so
like
like for
5 left feet.
me, yeah. And so for me, like music's always been part of like my family, and been a part of just who I am as well, because I just think it's so enticing and so enriching. And seeing that we're seeing not just music, but also music from a different perspective from Dominicans and from this culture, I think is also going to be great, because it hasn't really been mainstream to a certain extent. And I'm happy it is going to be shown on the big screen for a lot
Same.
of people. And I think Lin Manuel, again, is the right person to do some of the music in this film.
Absolutely. Again, In the Heights, that was his baby. So again, like just knowing that this has his touch, because again, even though he's not like actually no, I think he is gonna be acting in like a smaller role in the film. He's not gonna have like the lead role like he did in the musical, but just knowing that he's involved with this sort of thing and just the sort of flavor that he brings to musicals and stuff like that, again, I'm enticed, especially after what I saw with Hamilton. So again, I can't wait to see this, and I'm happy. I'm happy that this is actually getting pulled up a week, because it makes me feel like this is a sign of progress that you know people are more confident in whether or not people are gonna like want to go back to the theaters and stuff like that too. Usually, if they weren't as confident, they'd be pushing it back. But now,
Exactly.
this one's getting pushed up a week from the 18th to the 11th. It was originally supposed to come out on like June 25th of last year, but of course was delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So anyway, I can't wait to see this, especially in the theater. This is something where I think you're gonna have to see this in the biggest sound with the biggest sound system possible.
Definitely. Like I said, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what they do with this film. And purely from the director's standpoint, after Crazy Rich Asians, I'm even more excited for this. So.
I still haven't seen Crazy Rich Asians. I know. I have to. I should have gotten on that one a while ago. Haven't gotten to it yet. But now I'm curious, what do you guys think of In the Heights? Are you as pumped as we are for In the Heights? Don't forget to leave your thoughts in that comment section there below. And now, to cap off the show, Venom 2 has been delayed yet again. And according to Variety, Venom Let There Be Carnage has been delayed to September 17th of this year. It was delayed several times because of the COVID-19 pandemic and was most recently slated to come out on June 25th, but has been pushed back to September 17th of this year. Darius, you don't look too happy there, do you?
God damn it. just another delay yet again. But you know what? I mean, I'm tired of these delays, honestly. I understand why they are. I understand they want to recuperate their money after the investment in the film. It's just unfortunate that we're getting delays after delays after delays. And really, I see a lot of it on Sony's side. Like, Sony's really delaying a lot of their films compared to other studios. Obviously, other studios are, but Sony's been doing the most as far as pushing movies like Uncharted, like with Venom. And so, and even with, I don't even know if Ghostbusters Afterlife is being delayed. I haven't heard much on that
Yeah,
film
I
yet.
forgot about that one. When's that one supposed to come out? Do you know? It was
I
supposed
don't
to come out in like
remember.
June of last year, but like I don't know what it got pushed to.
Yeah, so I mean, delay. I just hope. I wasn't a fan of the first Venom. Only thing I liked was his design, and that's why I'm coming back for this one.
Yeah,
Maybe actually that, and I like Andy Serkis, so I'm curious to see his direction for the film and
same
his
here.
direction for Carnage. But overall, just these delays, it's just unfortunate, and it's unfortunate to the point where it's like, okay, theaters are opening back up. Are any of the movies going to entice viewers and audiences to go back to the theaters, or is Venom, and I'm assuming Venom is one of them. The general audience really liked Venom 1, right? And they're probably going to be enticed to see Venom 2. But at the same time, is that how much more are they willing to wait to see Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, compared to the
Yeah.
other films that's coming out? I've already seen people say they don't care about Black Widow anymore.
Really?
Yes! Like, they just don't care anymore because of these delays and these companies are like, they're unsure. So it's like, okay, theaters are coming back, or slowly, especially in New York, but
And
overall, it's
LA,
just,
AMC just opened up. AMC started opening up theaters in New York, and they very recently just started opening up theaters in LA. So,
yeah,
I mean, again,
two
going with
really big areas of
yeah,
moviegoers.
yeah. Um, but again, when it comes to Venom 2, again, a lot of times, and again, of course, they can blame this on the pandemic too. But a lot of times, when a movie gets delayed, that's usually not the best sign, especially in a time when
Hmm.
movie theaters are starting to slowly open up again, like we mentioned in New York and now LA with AMC. And you have films being moved up in their film releases, like we just talked about with In the Heights, getting moved from June 18th to June 11th of this year. A Quiet Place Part 2, out of nowhere, it was originally supposed to come out, originally, after how many delays because of the pandemic. It was originally supposed to come out on like September 17th of this year. Out of nowhere, gets pulled up to Memorial Day, to Memorial Day
Oh
weekend
shoot!
of this year. So
Oh
then you
wow!
have Venom 2 that's getting pushed back to September 17th, but I think also, too, one of the reasons why it got pushed back, I don't think it's entirely because of the pandemic, because that weekend, June 25th, Fast and Furious 9 got moved to
Mm,
around that time, and they would have had to compete. And I know a lot of movies, or at least a lot of production companies and studios, aren't in the mood for much competition, especially now.
yeah,
So I think that's the main reason it got pushed back to September 17th, because now it has just enough time before
a
Dune
little
when
more
that's supposed to
breathing
come out,
room.
and a lot of these other summer blockbusters that are supposed to be coming out.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives them more breathing room for sure. But now it also depends. Okay, let's just say, as hypothetical, right? Black Widow, we don't know when that's coming out just yet. They're
Nah, that's
saying
still supposed
May.
to come out in May. That's supposed to
May.
still come out in May. Yeah.
Let's say they delay it, right? They
Yeah.
delay to September, or on the same day as Venom 2.
Hmm.
I'm just tossing that out there. What's going to happen then?
Well, here's the thing. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think
Yeah, I don't
they're
think
going to
so.
want to do that.
But
Especially because here's the thing. Disney, of course, owns all the Marvel properties now, right? And they just let Raya and the Last Dragon come out. If they have a safe and secure spot for Black Widow, I think it's like May 6th now, May 6th or May 7th. If
hmm
that's safe and secure, why would they risk jeopardizing that? And again, at the same time, this is still a Disney property too. No one's going to want to fuck with the Disney property. They're not going to want to compete with them. So
yeah, for sure.
I don't see. It doesn't make as much sense for Venom to be moved again after being delayed to September 17th. It doesn't make as much sense for Black Widow to get delayed yet again, especially when stuff is opening back up, especially when they just released Ryan the Last
Yeah,
Dragon into theaters.
yeah, like things are opening back up. People are going to theaters again, apparently, and it's you see all these movies are getting pushed up now. So
Hmm.
it's interesting why Venom 2 was pushed back, as well as I'm wondering if they're confident in that film overall. So, but
Hmm.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
a wait and see. Again, I'm personally not too excited for this film, but I am
Yeah, I feel like this
intrigued.
could go. I feel like this could go either way. And like here's the thing, like is it going to be better than the first one? In my opinion, the first movie set the bar pretty low. I feel like the only thing that it really had to go for it was, like you said, the design of Venom. And honestly, I thought Tom Hardy did a solid job too. I think he's an awesome actor. But I think one of the ways that Venom 2 can definitely be better than Venom 1 is the villain, because the villain in the first movie was fucking terrible.
What
Just like the
villain?
casting. And again, it sucks because like Riz Ahmed, he's a solid actor too. He's got an Oscar nomination for Sound of Metal, but he just did not fit that role. How the role was written, how he performed, And again, even if he performed it better, there's still nothing that he would have been able to do because he just really wasn't given much to work with, and he just, I guess, with what he was given, he didn't really do much with it either. But considering how Woody Harrelson is playing the next villain, again, I like Woody Harrelson a lot as an actor. And again, I don't know too much about the villain Carnage. I'm assuming he's supposed to be, an evil guy. That's it. That's all I know. Given that
There's
Woody
more to it,
Harrelson
but
is
yeah.
playing him, yeah. I think it's a pretty decent way to put it. But like, given that Woody Harrelson is the villain, I think okay, like this is already going to be better in that department than Venom 1, unless I'm completely wrong and they really
Yeah.
just don't bring their A game at all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's for me. This is gonna be a wait and see. Venom 2. I really didn't like Venom 1. When I went to see Venom 1, I was like, yeah, I just want to see his design done right. I was
Hmm.
happy with that. As much as he didn't have the spider logo, I was still fine with it. I was like, whatever. But
Yeah.
just I'm just like whatever for this movie. I'll still go see it for sure for the
Yeah,
podcast to
honestly,
rip
this is
on
another movie. Yeah,
it.
this is another movie. Like I said a few episodes ago, like okay, there are only certain movies that I'm willing to see just so I could talk about it on the show. That's Venom 2 is going to be one of those movies. Because Venom 1,
Yeah.
again, like it had Tom Hardy going for it, had the design going for it. Oh, and the Eminem song going for it. Like when a one song and playing the credits is one of the best parts of your movie, that's rough, buddy. I mean,
That says a lot.
yeah. So yeah, at the moment, it's still starring Tom Hardy and is being directed by, or has been directed, I think at this point, by Andy Serkis, and is set to be released on September 17th of this year. And I'm curious as to what you guys are thinking. How do you feel about Venom 2? Like, do you still care at this point, considering how many times it's been delayed? Do you have any confidence in it whatsoever? You gotta have some thoughts on it. Leave them in the comment section there below. And just like that, the show is over. Thank you all for tuning in yet again. Darius, thank you for suffering. Well, I'm just kidding, not suffering. He's just doing this with me yet again. And we will be back on April 18th with our review of Mortal Kombat. And if you have not gotten a chance to yet, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and hit the bell to get all notifications, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, the Podcast Index, or YouTube, and hit up all those social media profiles in that description there below. And until next time, I'm Joe Acierno. This has been Cinema Unchained.
Bye.
And that's Darius Delsoin.
Bye.
See you all in a few weeks.